Today we're joined by Dr. Larry Grogin, an endurance athlete, healer, longtime advocate for movement as medicine. Larry has completed more than 300 marathons, 30 Ironman triathlons, and after being diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019, now he's on his biggest challenge yet, running 100 marathons in 100 days to inspire hope and awareness for the Parkinson's community. This podcast is not medical advice. Talk to your clinician before changing training, meds, or supplements. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
So before we dive into Parkinson's specifically, I'd love for people to understand who you were before this all started. So why don't you give me a little background on how you spent the last bunch of years?
I drooled less. I tremored a little less. My balance was a little better, but otherwise I was the same.
Can you take a moment for and explain whether sports were central to your childhood, or was this something you came to later in life?
I love playing baseball, and I was a okay athlete, a hard-working athlete. I'd certainly say my twin sons, that'll be 36 in June, have eclipsed their papa by a mile in their chosen sports of swimming and baseball. But I got interested, I guess, in my mid-20s, started doing triathlons in earnest. I think you're a triathlete as well, right here.
Yeah, I've spent a little time doing it and realized I wasn't particularly that good at it, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. I did a couple half Ironman, and they were great experiences and really had a lot of fun and learned a lot.
Well, I was pretty competitive. I like I said, I was a hard worker, little on gift and natural talent, but tenacity and determination I have. And I said, much to the insult of some of the best triathletes that I count as dear friends, it's in some ways a sport of mediocrity. And I mean that in the nicest way, in that if you're willing to work really, really hard, you can do well in that sport.
Yeah, it's you didn't have the excellence for one sport, but three sports put together, you had plenty of excellence for it.
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the training more than the competing. I still do. I'm not a stressor. You know, some people perform at their best. I have a sense that you under fire come out as your best version.
I have my moments, but sometimes I'm surprised when the challenge meets the mindset. It's amazing what you can do, and you're embarking on that now as well.
Well, here's a little twist. I've been known to say that as a Parkinson's patient, in some ways we have an advantage. You know, there are the disadvantages and the challenges that we all face with the Parkinsons. But I think in some ways, for instance, I say that Parkinson's is teaching us a lesson of learning how to live with something, not learning how to beat it. And maybe that takes some of the pressure off of you because you're not going to beat it, but you can live your best life and live a good life and do everything. As you know, you die with Parkinson's, not from it. That's for sure.
Right. It certainly teaches you resilience.
Oh man! And on a funny note, I love quoting Golda Meir when she talks about humility because I complimented you and you very humbly responded. But what Golda Meir said was, "Don't be that humble. You're not that great."
Right. Oh, well said. You've always had a bit of wit to you, I guess. It's probably a product of serving people and helping people. So what brought you to chiropractic?
Well, I had a motorcycle accident and a weightlifting accident back in college days. I was helped tremendously by a chiropractor, and I was subscribing to natural therapeutics already and believing that we truly are the primary catalyst in our healing. And I think the Parkinson's once again teaches us that if we take responsibility and own it, we can do more than just survive it. And I try to live by that credo. And certainly with this run, I've had it on my mind that I don't want to let people down. I want to do my best and show up.
Well, it reminds me in part of what Joe Dispenza went through with his journey, from a horrific accident to rebuilding his body and, basically using the mindset to harness the amazing chemistry that we have and the ability to heal ourselves is quite remarkable.
Amen.
So how did you come about getting diagnosed? What was the process? Because you're this lifelong athlete and you must have been used to dealing with stress and challenges, and then something probably wasn't working, I take it. But why don't you tell the story about how that kind of revealed itself?
Okay, it started with the tiniest of that pill rolling, the finger kind of rolling over. And I knew that I had it. I was at the time getting ready for another run for a women's shelter called Oasis in northern New Jersey. I was getting ready to do a cross country run, much as I'm doing now. And I, noticed the tremors, and my kids were upset about it. I didn't want to get diagnosed, and at the behest of my twin sons, I went and got diagnosed. And lo and behold, within a couple of days of being diagnosed, suddenly the symptoms rushed in. That old saying, "Don't look down, because if you look down, you're going to fall."
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, I had the same experience. As soon as I was diagnosed, I decided I was going to out exercise it, get back to working. Came down with a little bit of a back injury, and it stopped me from walking and being able to exercise. And quickly, depression and apathy kind of rolled in, and I couldn't move, and it was kind of completely locked down, and was kind of trapped in my own mind on how I was going to unravel this puzzle without being able to exercise through it.
Well, it's such a wonderful thing that you are doing, and that I talk about it, that it's a cruel punishment, that where with Parkinson's, the best thing in the universe you can do is exercise, as you know. And there's an aversion to doing even a normal amount of exercise because it takes so long to warm up and get out of the stiffness. But that's been an interesting finding here that I'd love to share with you.
Yeah, please.
Unexpectedly, I spend a long time warming up, hours warming up on a treadmill every day. I'm up 4:30, 5 a.m. on the treadmill for 3 hours doing the beginning of my marathon. And people think that's determination and dedication. But what it really is I'm taking a long, slow warm up. And I think there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when we study and understand this better, that those of us with Parkinson's warm up much slower. And for people that are not enthusiastic like you and I, and that are going to exercise come hell or high water, the average Parkinson's patient that really benefits from the exercise has an aversion to it. And that's a cruel punishment because, as you know, to get through that, that's that pot of gold where you feel good on the other side of the rainbow, where you start to feel normal. And so I think what's going to come out of this is that they're going to look closely at the way my body responded. I'll give you an example. 2 days ago, I ran my 26th mile. At the end of the day, it was about 2:30, and it was 2 minutes faster than my fastest split the whole day. I
Oh,
did it the
wow.
second day and the third day, and today will be the fourth day. And the point is that, as you know, there's little glimpses of normal, and it holds the promise for people that are less enthusiastic, maybe less than us, that are not fanatics and going to do it come hell or high water, that they do a very, very low intensity, super slow, something as simple as flapping the hands or clapping hands, maybe raising arms for a couple of hours. And you get through that warm up session where you get to that place where you feel more like normal. And, without being cynical, I watch a 2 hour medical documentary on Parkinson's. And for 1 hour and 58 minutes, they talk about medication, surgical procedures, medication, medicine, doctoring. And in the last 2 minutes of a 2 hour segment, they'll say, and make sure you exercise. It's really good for
Right.
you. Kind of comical.
It is kind of comical. And to your point about those that are fanatical, we often say God has a sense of humor because he gave us the perfect excuse to have to exercise every day.
Right.
But to those that don't like to exercise, the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. And
Oh,
we
I like that.
constantly remind people that the first rep is the hardest rep, but it gets everything going. And so whether it's clapping your hands or flapping your arms or arm circles or whatever it is that gets you going, you have to build into some momentum so that your success leads to more success. So action dispels the fear and kind of gets everything moving in the right direction.
Touche. Here's one to add on to that, Eric. I say to
Yes.
people, if you're frowning because you're not enjoying exercise, do a headstand.
I'm going to borrow that one.
You can keep it.
Excellent. So you got into chiropractic and health and primarily from an injury. and then you kind of took it to the next level and started working with patients. Have you noticed anything that has changed in your practice and since over the years? Because I presume you've been doing this for quite a while.
Well, there is a change, and it's a change in my relationship with people. I'm quicker to give people the key, the pass key to be responsible for their health. Where before I would like to think that I taught people to be responsible for their health and to be the primary catalyst. By not choice, by necessity, feel like I have less to be able to give as a Parkinson's patient. I have to take care of myself better. And in that is
Right.
a reward that I've handed off that pass key to the patients for them to be in charge of the health, which is the way it should be, of course, in the long run anyway. So it's been a lesson for good. And I've learned to look inward and figure out how I can best be a model of taking good care of myself.
There's so many lessons to be learned from Parkinson's. I'm convinced that the law of compensation is at work, and the more challenging it becomes, the more it's giving me gifts in other ways. Meeting people like yourself, the gift of movement, different types of movement, because I was at a jujitsu background, which is a little more challenging now that I have Parkinson's. But, my sporting background was athletics. And that's been a little challenging because I'm moving not the way I used to move, but a little slower, but I'm still moving. And so that's been beneficial. But there's definitely the more it takes from me or it tries to take from me, it's giving me other gifts of patience and fortitude and resilience and compassion and empathy. And it keeps giving me gifts. So I'm kind of interested to see where this leads to. Have you found that to be the case in your own life?
It's very well said. Yes, indeed. And I find that I'm a little more understanding of other people. Like I used to shoot for the stars and say, if I try hard enough, I can do anything. And I've relieved some of that pressure. And ironically, I think sometimes I have more tenacity and more get up and go and more stay power because I relieve the pressure of absolute rule. And it's come to just be participate.
Yeah, it's amazing. It certainly teaches you humility.
Well, there's Golda Meir again saying, don't be so humble. You're not that great.
What have you learned from taking on this journey? Because you've had a long life of philanthropy and helping other people through your athletics. What brought you to the 100 by 100? How'd that come up?
Well, I figured that I would do it because I could, and I wanted to be stand as a model. Somebody working with me came up with the quote that Larry's running for people that think they cannot. And there's a lot of beauty in that statement. It's not saying they can't, it's saying they don't think they can, and maybe they'll watch and be inspired. And happily, I can tell you, Air, I've had cards and letters from people all around the world on a daily basis. People not so much cheering for me, but my motive was not to say, isn't Larry strong and powerful for doing this, but more for people to say, well, golly, if Larry can do this, I guess I can do anything. And that's been the rewarding thing that I've had people say, thank you. I will try harder. I will give it a better effort. Had people promise me on the road that they'll run a mile, that they'll walk a mile, that they'll get out of bed, that they'll hiccup twice, just to do
Right.
more. And I can tell you this, Air, I've seen a bright and sweet side of people. We have a saying we have people chanting, run, Larry, run across the country in the most obscure places. And people grin and smile and are happy to be supportive and happy to be cheering. And I'm seeing a bright and beautiful side of people that much as I have done philanthropic work, I've never been exposed to so much generosity and people really joyous and smiling. And we've been through a number of states already, so I'd say we've established a trend.
I like to say that the best way to strengthen yourself is to lift other people up. And
Amen.
so, it's an opportunity to do that on a daily basis. What happens when the body says, "No, not today, Larry?" Do you listen to it, or do you just kind of push through and do it anyway?
I shorten my stride. And people keep saying, it's kind of a holiday day today. This is day 50 of 100. So we're at the top of the mountaintop. So happy to celebrate with you. But it's absolutely true. There's been so many times where I really do want to give up. And I think about the power that I'm getting from trying to do something to help other people. and be focused on something more important. Paul Newman had a quote. He said, try to focus on something bigger than you. And certainly other people's welfare and other people, as you know, we're so lucky that we're not fighting for our life. We're fighting to live our best life. And there's a
Right.
lot of worse places we could be.
Yeah, that's for sure. My diagnosis was actually a blessing in a way because it wasn't ALS and it wasn't something that was terminal. And it gave a name to the thing that I was working with, and it became more of a challenge that I was able to work with, and then it became a limiting factor.
Amen. I won't go so far. I wouldn't mind it being a misdiagnosis, but I'll take it.
Oh, missing. Yeah, I would probably give it up. I'd find other ways to build character. It's rough seas make great sailors, but every now and then it's nice to have some calm water to enjoy.
And I'm not the biggest medicine taker, but I'll take the Dramamine.
Right.
For
So
the
you're 50 days in now. These are not consecutive days. Am I correct, or they are
Oh no,
consecutive
they're
days?
consecutive. We started on my 71st birthday. That was March 24th, and we haven't missed a day. Today is day 50, marathon 50, and we'll finish. I think it's July 1st. Might be July 1st, July 2nd, but consecutively. There's been a couple of moments where I wondered if maybe by accident I could fall off a cliff, but so far
I think that's wishful thinking. It's not.
you remind me of a funny story. Years ago, I did the Norseman triathlon in Norway. And the finish
Okay.
is a 10-kilometer climb to, I don't know how tall, a very tall mountaintop. And there are cars driving down the road. And this is the end of the Ironman triathlon. So you've done your swim in the Norwegian Sea, did a bike through the mountains, cut into the mountaintops. It was so beautiful, and ran. It just seemed like, you know how you say when you go up, you come down? It seemed like we went up
Yeah.
and then we went up and then we went up. But the last 10 kilometers, the last 5 or 6 miles, we're walking up to the finish line. And I was saying, there are cars driving down. If a car accidentally hits me and doesn't kill me, but just hurts me enough to get a car ride home, that would be a good finish.
Right.
So
If it would push you along the way a little bit. It's kind of like a tailwind, but it's a steel an iron wind.
I was thinking I could get in the back of a car with my dignity intact and a hurt shoulder from getting hit by a car and go home. But I had no such luck. I stayed for the marathon, stayed for the finish.
Amazing. Was that your favorite race, or do you have a favorite race that you can tell us about?
I can tell you about the world's toughest triathlon was in Lake Tahoe. It was at Camp Richardson, the southwest corner near the California-Nevada border. And we did that 8 years running. I was living in Southern California at the time. And there would be a year of preparation for that race. And it was just such a wonderful experience. And it wasn't about the swimming and the biking and running. It was about just being a part of something that was so wonderful. And I credit that race with a lot of the tools. You asked about what happens when I'm on the run course, and
Yeah.
I think about moments like that. There was a race, a 220-mile bike race that was called the longest day. I was thinking about it this morning when I was running, and it goes from Port Jervis, New York, to the lowest tip of New Jersey, Cape May, New Jersey, and I think it was 222 miles. And there's about a 100-mile stretch in the Pine Barrens in northern New Jersey, southern New Jersey, and for hours and hours you see the forest coming to a head in the center, and you're just pedaling on this flat pine barren for mile after mile. And I was thinking while I was running on one of the trails that I was running this morning, that was a little tool, a little screwdriver that I put in my toolbox to pull out. And it's this lifetime that I'm sure you can relate, a lifetime of experiencing with different types of challenges, remembering moments and remembering that. I think it was John McCain said that anything is tolerable if you can recognize that it won't last. And that's
Right.
true, right? In the hardest moment, you can realize this isn't going to last forever. I've had blisters and calluses and cuts and tears and sunburns, and all of it comes and goes. And looking backwards over this first 50 days, it's just a blur of just wait a moment, it'll go away.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Viktor Frankl quote of, everything's endurable if you have a purpose.
You know what? I was thinking before we got on the call, as you know, I got on a little early and had a delay, and I was thinking I wanted to share a quote about man's greatest gift. And here you brought up Viktor Frankl. I said, I'm going to share this quote if I can remember it. but I can't remember Victor's last name. So there it is,
Well,
Victor
I'm glad I
Frankl.
reminded you. Now you have to give me the quote.
Thank you, and I'm gonna botch it up. And if Viktor Frankl can come back from the dead, he's allowed to put a thorn in my backside. But it was something to the effect of that the human spirit is indomitable, and that you can't kill that human spirit. You can't kill that spirit that has a burning passion that's alive, that's a flicker of light. And he was referring to those that kept the humanity in the concentration camps and still tended for one another and gave meaning to their life. And maybe it's a jump, but I feel like I'm so blessed and honored to be able to try to share something of a lesson to people. And we've been so well received, and I'm so grateful for the number of people that have listened to the message and responded and said amen. So thank you for Viktor Frankl.
My pleasure. Sure, we're going to remind you of some more quotes as we embark on this conversation. There's so many amazing lessons that life teaches us along the way if you're open to learning. It's quite remarkable. There's a quote that I think fits what you're doing is a poem called Ithaca by Constantine Coffey. And it talks about having a goal that you were striving for. In this case, it was going to Ithaca for pilgrimage. And he says in the process, the Poseidons, the Lagosaurians, and the Cyclops won't show up unless you set them forth in your mind. And, you should begin your journey and realize along the way that it's not Ithaca you're trying to get to, it's the experiences that you're going to have along the way trying to get to Ithaca. And if you get to Ithaca and she turns to be nothing that you expected, you still have to be thankful because she gave you a goal to reach for and gave you a destination to work towards. It's a really fantastic poem. Be sure to send it to you, and
Thank you.
it kind of captures your spirit.
Thank you. You reminded me of something that came out. I used to make up quotes when I was in my acupuncture and chiropractic office, and it was something that you might be able to relate to. I said, nobody ever failed at dying, so I'm going to just wing it and concentrate on living.
I love it. It's I don't know how we haven't met each other previously. I'm an East Coaster myself. I'm in Southern California now, but I was born and bred in Long Island and Manhattan and spent the last 50 some odd years there, and then came out during COVID. We had a second home in California, and we were on vacation, and COVID blew up, and 1 week became 6 weeks, became 6 months, became a year. And my boys fell in love with the lifestyle of spearfishing and surfing and water polo, and it kind of we grew roots and transplanted as a result of COVID.
I'm with you 100%. I'm living in New Jersey, but my heart, it's like a la Tony Bennett, I left my heart in the West Coast. I do. I
Yeah,
love the lifestyle. I love the lifestyle. People get sick of hearing me talk about it, but I love that open lifestyle and the active lifestyle. I say in California, you're healthy, and in the East Coast, they describe you as a health nut.
it's very true. It's I marvel at my neighbors. I walk by their garages and you can see their obsessions. Whether they're treadmills or kettlebells or boats or motorcycles or bicycles, and everyone seems to be, going to a workout, and then somewhere along the day they fit work in and squeeze in a couple hours of work along the way.
That is so true. I've oftentimes told, I talk about it with patients. I said the same vocations operate differently in the West Coast. If you're a banker and you're a surfer and the surf is up, you surf.
Right.
If you're a toll booth collector and there's a good day to go out and take a run, somehow you manage to find the way. I would reflect it in my practice too, because people would come in all times of the day when I practiced in California. When I practiced in New Jersey, they'd say, no, I can't come in between 9 and 5. That's when I work. And
Right.
there's like a police line, a police ticker tape line.
Yeah, it's amazing. Are you still practicing, by the way?
I do. I practice 2 days a week. I have a philosophy that I would start at 5 in the morning, which I got started doing because I wanted to be done when my kids got done with kindergarten. But I got starting early, and it was great because I'd get up early, work, and still have the day to train. And you said it earlier. I wanted to double back to the idea that with Parkinson's or without Parkinson's, you're better off just exercising all day, and that's all there is to it. When people tell me, well, here's another quote, Air. If people don't think you're doing too much exercise, you're probably not doing enough.
Right. It's very true. My mother would always remind me that if I was capable of going to the gym, I should be able to clean the house or help her move some furniture. She felt it was a waste of good muscle if it wasn't put to some practical use.
Oh, here's an optimist. You have such a bright and beautiful optimistic perspective. You know that quote about is the glass half full or half empty?
Yes,
So I've reframed that. It's not whether the glass is half full or half empty. It's be grateful you have a glass.
it's very true. I like the one that with all this shit that we're digging up, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere.
Touche. Touche. So I have this vision of a retreat for Parkinson's patients where they really are immersed in exercise and learn to just not take a break. Get up in the morning and exercise, work out in the afternoon, have dinner, and then work out after dinner.
I love it. I think we should join forces and put this together at some point.
I think so. Here's a novel idea. We'll add rowing machines.
I love it. Did you ever get into rowing or erging?
I did, I have my one son he's interesting. He's a dog whisperer, and he was a certified trainer. Went to school for kinesiology, got his degree in kinesiology. So
Right.
he grinds his love and gift working with dogs as a dog whisperer with a trainer and teaches people how to exercise with their pets. It's a pretty brilliant
Fantastic.
approach.
Where is he based out of?
He's in New Jersey. That's my son, Eric, by the way, and he has a twin brother, Blake. You don't have a twin brother, Blake, do you? Or else I'll say
I
it's
do
his.
not, but I have a dog that needs, unfortunately, got hit by a car and broke his leg. Fortunately, he wasn't more damaged than that, and he's been mending, and I've lost my exercise partner in part while he's on the heel.
You're going to have to consult with my son, and he's planning to do the last couple of days with me from somewhere in Arizona to the finish. So we'll pencil you in for an appointment, get him to get on your dog's backside and get you guys better again.
Fantastic. Now, tell me about we're 50 days in on the journey. You've run halfway across the country.
1,300 miles, but who's counting?
Right. And you've I would imagine laid this route out so it's somewhat consecutive, or have you been jumping in a car and driving to a location and rebuilding camp and stuff like that?
We're not picking up where we left off. We're going to where it's interesting, or else it would be too doggone boring. So what we
Right.
do is I did a hell of a lot of planning, and most of it went out the window. Now, as we're halfway point, we're inventing and reinventing ourselves. But basically, the night before, we'll figure out some interesting place. I've done a lot of rails to trails and a lot of beautiful parks, state parks, national parks. We visited Harry Truman's home in Independence, Missouri. We went to where the plane crashed in Pennsylvania on 9/11, and we've done some interesting things. So the answer to your question here is we pick interesting points, and I'm running a marathon every day, but not end to end, not point to point. I'm not declaring that we're obviously crossing the country, getting in the car and driving 26 miles and pulling up stake and going again.
Fantastic.
And I've learned how my body's working. I've really gotten to know. Actually, I'm glad that I thought of this. I recommend that for your listeners that are with Parkinson's, that they really get to know when their downtime is, their off time, and
Yes.
understand it. And I've stopped fighting after 50 days. I stopped fighting it. I know that between 2:30 and 3:30, I'm walking like the wounded dead. And if I just stop fighting it and stop trying to move forward, if I stop, lo and behold, at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I come back to life and I'm running beautifully. My suggestion is to figure out and calculate, and it is predictable, not without exception, but with exception, it is predictable to figure out when are those 1, 2, or 3 real downtime points and respect it and stop fighting it and take that time to reinvigorate yourself.
Now, have you been running at different times of the day?
Well, as I say, I start at 5 a.m. with a warm up on the treadmill, and that's the first down. I run into downtime at about an hour and a half.
So, medication wise, have you had to change your medication from your normal life?
I haven't figured out. I've been diagnosed 7 years ago, May, so we're just coming up on the 7 year anniversary, and I take just 3 doses of the carbolevodopa, the yellow happy faces, and I
Yep.
take it oftentimes I forget and only take it. I'm a bad example. I, for the life of me, don't even know if it makes a difference, but I'll take it 1, 2, or 3 times a day, and I haven't changed it. I know that I was taking some hammer nutrition pretty religiously, and it was upsetting my stomach combined with the carbo-levodopa. So I experimented a little with that, but I'm a bad example. I'm a very, very bad example. And like I average 2, sometimes 3 carbo-levodopas a day, so I'm not taking much medicine.
I'm in the same camp. I went from 3 doses down to 2 doses, and then I find that there's many days where I should be taking my second dose at 2 o'clock, and I end up taking it at 5 o'clock just because I'm busy doing stuff.
I think great minds think alike.
Well, I couldn't figure out whether I needed as much as I needed or if it was easier to strip it away. So it's been easier for me to subtract the dosages than it was to try to add to a baseline that I didn't know whether it was too high or not.
It's funny you say that because I set out for my first round. I take it whenever I first wake up, and that's the one that I remember to take. And I was noticing I stockpiled a pill box, a little prescription bottle with my 100-day supply, and it's very close to the.
Right. I kind of feel that for me at least, the exercise has offset the need for the medication. People tell me sometimes they feel like they need more medication because they're burning through it. But it seems for me that the exercise, if I'm doing it right, seems to extend my day and extend my benefits of whatever dose I'm on.
Well, I agree with you 100%. So maybe we're both entirely wrong or we're right, but I happen to share that sentiment. I really do. I really, really do.
So what have you learned in this process of running for 50 days straight and putting your body through what you've been putting it through?
Yeah, when I put on my socks each day, which takes longer than most people take to brush their teeth and go watch a movie. But what I notice is that my blisters have become calluses. My sunburn has become a suntan, and our bodies are built to adapt. In some ways, I was counting on a training effect, and I don't want to jinx myself. But having run so much for 50 days, I'm thinking my body has learned. It said, this nut is going to keep doing this, so we better make him better prepared to do it. And it's like, just going into the gym and lifting, bench pressing 100 pounds and getting a little stronger, and then bench pressing 120 and 130 and so
Right.
on and so forth.
I'm sure you've been sharing this with some of your patients and clients through the years because you've figured this out long ago. Now you're just proving it in a day-to-day practice. But I'm sure that you knew most of this already from all the marathons you've done and all the triathlons you've done. It's just mind-blowing to me that people with Parkinson's can do the things that you are a perfect example of doing. We had a gentleman who, for his 50th birthday, decided that he was going to row the Pacific Ocean. And so he got 3 of his buddies together, and they rowed from Monterey Peninsula to Kauai over
I
50
love it.
days.
I
And
love it.
that's how we celebrated his 50th birthday. And so you guys are redefining what's possible with Parkinson's.
Let's make a plea on behalf of all Parkinson's patients. As you know, the dopamine is what's lacking, those nerve cells that died in our bodies that don't produce the dopamine. And
Yeah.
what produces it is hugs and listening to music that we like, playing music that we like, doing things that we enjoy. So I want to make a plea to everybody in your audience, that wide, far-reaching audience, that if you see me, make sure you run over and give me a hug and sing a song and do something to make me smile. You have an excuse to
Fantastic.
smile.
Where are the next couple days? Where are you in this journey location-wise, and where are you planning on going?
Well, we're right in the home of the University of Kansas in Lawrence. And for the next 6 or 7 days, maybe even a little bit longer, Kansas is a big, long state. And I think, we've got ahead of us, we've got Arizona. Let's see, we have Arizona, we have Nevada, we have California, of course.
You gonna make your way into Utah and Colorado?
No, to Colorado, we catch we're farther south than a lot of people travel, but Colorado. So from here into Colorado to Las Vegas, not Las Vegas, to Nevada, to Arizona, a long way through Arizona, and then to California.
Fantastic. Where in California do you plan on being?
Well, we finish up at Calabasas High School in Southern California. I practice in Calabasas, the home of the Kardashians. My kid brother lives in Calabasas, Hidden Hills, actually, but the west end of the San Fernando Valley in LA. And I'm going to sit down at the finish line and not get up for about a week.
Yeah, I would imagine that you're already planning your next trip.
Well, Honda of Mahwah, New Jersey was so kind to give us a car, a Honda Odyssey. They marked up for us. That's been our lifeblood support vehicle. We named it after my dear departed dad, Herbie.
Oh, fantastic. It's a beautiful honor because your dad, I'm sure you feel his support while you're running. And then to have that as your support vehicle seems very appropriate.
You might think me a little bit nuts, but every time I look up and see a bird, I'm wondering who's helping out there. And the birds have flocked. Matter of fact, today the raptors were circling, and I passed the hiker, and he said, "Is it my imagination, or are there a lot of raptors?" And they're circling and giving it the wind beneath our wings. I know they are.
That's fantastic. It's better than them waiting for you to slow down.
Some of the ravens look like they're looking towards the end of my day. I look a little bit more like dinner.
Yeah, if they had lips, they'd be licking them, I'm sure.
Touche.
That's amazing. So Calabasas, I'm going to see if I can get myself over there. What's the timeline? Do you guys have a specific date that you plan on being there?
July 1st or 2nd. I've been saying the first. A few people are correcting me. It's either the first or the second, but you'll surely know. And it'll be a worthy celebration. I'd love for you to be a part of it.
It's an amazing event. I'm looking forward to it. So, what do you say to someone who's newly diagnosed in Parkinson's? Because we get a lot of the new people following us. So, what's your words of wisdom?
Well, the first one, I said it earlier, but it bears repeating. You die with it, not from it. And to become invested in living your best life. You know, you said so many beautiful and salient points about taking stock of your life and making the best of it. And it's never going to be perfect, that's for sure. And Parkinson's is hardly a dream or a reward, but it's livable. And I encourage people to figure out what they want to do with their life. You're going to be dead forever. No need to hurry and practice. It's like that quote
It's
that I said earlier, but bears repeating. Nobody ever failed at dying, so I'm just going to live my life and concentrate on living.
Yeah, it seems like you have a stoic attitude. My favorite quote from the Stoics is Marcus Aurelius saying, "That which obstructs the way becomes the way. That which impedes action advances action." And, Parkinson's is obstructing the way, and we're just finding a way to work through it and around it and with it the best we can to live the life that we want to live.
You're going to get along very well with my stoic son, Eric the second, because
It's
he is a
fantastic.
stoic.
It's a great name. So I got one of those myself. I have a 14-year-old that's like a 32-year-old in a 14-year-old body.
That's funny.
It keeps me on my toes. So he's becoming a bit of an avatar now because he's doing things in the gym that I haven't done in many years, and it's impressive to see him, kind of come into his own and kind of see my own journey through his experience. It's been quite fascinating.
Amen. I think one of the happiest days of my life was when I chronicled that, in fact, each of my sons in their own area had surpassed their dad. What a great day that was.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment because your dad's the only man your life that's ever going to cheer for you to be better than him.
Right. Although I do remember it was a very comical moment. I didn't mention my other son, that's Blake, they're fraternal twin boys. And he was in this very, very big king size waterbed as a little baby. I don't know how old he was, but he was an infant. And he was under the under the blanket in the center of the bed. And he looked over at his father, about a 1 year old or 2 year old, whatever he was. He looked over, he said, "I'm the king of this bed."
They rule that way with an iron fist for quite a few years. My 9-year-old found himself sleeping in our bed last night, and we kind of joked about it because it may very well be the last time. And you want to capture those moments and those memories, so you don't want to chase them away because
Um,
There was a meme going around for a while, like the last time that you did something with your kids, whether it was carry them or feed them or, can you truly live in the moment and appreciate all the things that you used to do that you no longer get the opportunity to do because everything's, changes as they mature and take on their own responsibilities.
Is so true. That is so true. And remember, my boys were twins, and I remember when they got their driver's license and they got in a car together and drove away. And I said, "My family just got in the car and left."
Right. And you said they're 37, right?
They'll be 36 June 19th, just as we're a week from the finish line. And it's been such a wonderful, wonderful thing to send them pictures and notes and them enjoying it and appreciating it. So I'll give you a word of encouragement. There was a period of time there in the 20s where I thought forever they're lost and moved on to their world. And I rediscovered the beauty and the love of those sons. So
Well, that's a beautiful thing because every now and then you wonder, whether the cantankerous 14-year-old is going to come back or is he going to blossom into his own person and come back and appreciate all that you've done for them. Not that we need gratitude, but I think that the frequency that we're around and we've built our lives around raising our family and being with our family, they don't appreciate you as much until they have a little bit of their own experiences and then they come back around and,
and they will come back
appreciate you.
around. They come back around, and I think the message you're so correct that it isn't that we want to have accolades and applause, but I wanted my sons to know how much I love and cherish them and know that they're that special. To know that, to come away with that gift, knowing that they are in our hearts, everything.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. I'm very happy to be working out with my son on a regular basis now, and he's getting a taste of what I've done for a career for many, many years for many, many people. And I think there's a sense of gratitude and appreciation for that, whereas it used to be just kind of what dad does. Now there's a little more meaning and a little more experience, and I'm super proud of you to be able to show your boys even at you're 70 now or 71.
71, March 24th. That was
71,
a
you're still proving that you're capable and you're viable and that you're independent and yet you still rely on them for love and support. It's a beautiful place to be.
I said this. It appeared in one of the articles. I think it might have been in People magazine. I mean, when you asked earlier about a message that we'd love to come through, and I think for those, whether they have Parkinson's or not, or they're caretaking for someone that does, to dream big and to not limit yourself to what is practical and logical. We know that we shoot for the extraordinary, we shoot for the stars, and anything is possible. And if people get that from this run, that my silly harebrained idea that it would be a fun way to capture people's attention and encourage them to exercise more, and has blossomed into this adventure that's touched people around the world. Dream big. Dream big. Let me leave you with one point, which is counter to so much of the positive and the optimistic that we said, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, and I hate for people watching this to say, how do Larry and Eric do it? They're always so upbeat and so happy. I can tell you that I have my moments where I say, what the hell is going on here? How am I going to go another step? And I hope that they're encouraged and not discouraged by hearing that, but encouraged to say, even that person that appears to be doing so well has their very down moments where they say, why me? Or how am I going to do this? How am I going to negotiate? Sometimes turning over in bed can be a rigmarole and a big ordeal. So I hope they see it, that they see the humanity in me, not see a superpower and say, wow, how does that guy do that? But instead say, if that Schmendrick can do it, I can too.
If this episode helped, share it with a coach, an athlete, or someone who needs a little momentum.
And if you have a topic you want us to tackle, send it in. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one.